Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today we're lucky enough to have Tony Moreau, CEO for American Eagle Gold Corp, with us today. How you doing, Tony?
I'm good, Keir. Thanks for having me. It's Moreau, but look, call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
I screwed that up the first time. Maybe the third time will be the charm. Anyways, a lot sort of happened since we last chatted. You guys have raised some capital. I think you got a drill program turning. We had some exciting stuff happen in the copper space. So why don't we kind of unpack some of that? Before we do that, we'll get our 60-second sort of pitch out of the way. So first question, what's the name and stock ticker of your company?
American Eagle Gold, ticker is AE on the TSX Venture.
What's the mission and vision of the company?
The mission's to de-risk what we think is could be a very bona fide copper gold deposit. We're drilling, and the mission is to eventually sell to someone that wants to actually build this thing and turn it into a mine. We're explorers, so our job is to find a deposit. We think we're getting there.
How many shares are outstanding?
Right now, 122 million shares.
What is the insider ownership and how much have they invested?
Well, I do insider ownership by, how many people can I find, what percentage of the shares can I find within one phone call? Insiders, institutions around 66%. Insiders just under 20%.
And what is the market cap of your company?
As of today, it's around $81 million Canadian. Once those shares hit the market, we're probably valued around $88 million.
And are you fully funded for 2024?
Here, we're funded for 2024. We're funded for 2025. The only way to get long-term value, shareholder appreciation, is by finding something and by drilling. And I wanted to make sure that there is no capital markets overhang. We hit it out of the park with our drill program that we can just fly. We're not going to be stopped by people thinking we're going to do a raise. So I'm sure we'll touch on it a little later, but that was the main reason why we did that raise a couple of weeks ago, was to give us optionality, and we're completely funded. And that's one of the main reasons why our stock was able to triple during a time period when these stocks usually go down, is people kept on finding out more and more information about us, and they knew we weren't going to do a raise. So we can kind of repeat this year and next year what we did from January till pretty much now, where we turned the stock from 25 cents with our last drill result, and we hit as high as 82 cents.
What are short-term catalysts?
Drilling and assays. That's really it. It's really the most important thing is the truth machine. So, I told you, we were able to appreciate our stock quite well with next to no information. Just telling people what maybe they hadn't seen before. Most people look at a stock, they spend 10 seconds on it. That drill hole 2317. It allowed people to spend 10 minutes on it. And once you start peeling that onion, there's a lot to see and a lot to be excited about. 2317 was great. It was exceptional. But we had, I would argue 7 other great holes and 7 other holes that were good. Exceptional allows you to look at a stock, and the great allows you to buy it. So that's what we have. And we're going to have catalysts coming out from now all the way well into 2025. And based on how our drilling goes, we could drill throughout the end of the winter. We could drill all the way through this time next year. Again, we have optionality.
Great. So for those of you who, for those of us that sort of missed or didn't see our last sort of interview, maybe you could just sort of rehash your background a little bit, who you are, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, my name's Tony. I have a finance background, CFA. Started running this company. My uncle, the reason why I got in the business, he founded this property. He said it was the second best geophysical target he'd ever seen. Take it with a grain of salt, he said. But he said that's a good place to start because, people spend a lot of money trying to work up targets. These targets were already worked up. We said no to the project twice because it'd been drilled a lot. And I think I said this before, Kerry. He said, you're a bean counter. He said, I've been in this business a long time. He did the original mapping at Grasberg. To let people know this, I've said this before, Grasberg is such a big mine, produces more gold than any other mine in the world. It's not a gold mine, it's a copper mine. That's how much copper they produce. That's how lucrative it is. And he was involved in this. And he goes, give me the chance, get this. And we got the project. We did it pretty much to the bottom of the market. Best time to be buying. And on our first drill hole, we hit, and we've been hitting ever since. Unfortunately, my uncle passed away, before our assays even came out. So when he died, I think the stock was at 2 cents. We traded as high as 83 cents, and I know he would have been proud, but he told me, he says, I'll just know by seeing this core whether I'm right or not. And he didn't have to see the assays. He was in his hotel room in Ecuador. He saw hole 2201, and we've been kind of off the races ever since. We've had 17 drill holes go in the ground, 2 seasons. We partnered with Teck last year, so they did an equity investment. That means they own, 19.9% of our company. They don't own the actual asset, and they don't have a ROFR on it, so other companies can come in if and when they want. That's really important because it creates still a lot of upside. And, we kind of drilled our first 2 seasons a lot based on geochem and geophysics. 2018 is the first year we can kind of drill off geology. We did enough, angled holes throughout our property. We can kind of piece things together. So our main geos, 2 guys, Neil Prowse and Charlie Gregg. And Charlie Gregg was the guy that founded GT Gold and sold it to Newmont for $400 million. So, yeah, you want ore bodies, hang with big ore bodies, and, geologists that know how to, sell companies are probably the right ones to be exploring on yours. And, we did a financing for $8.5 million. Already has $6.5 million in the treasury. So we have $15 million in the bank right now. We started drilling last week. We're about 400 meters through our first hole, and our plans to put out, about 15,000 meters this year. But again, we have a lot of optionality. We can increase our program. We're having 2 rigs. So we'll be drilling more this season than we drilled in the combined last 2 seasons.
Great. And when we last chatted to you in February, your shares were trading around 50 cents. Since then, without completing any drilling, there wasn't really a lot of work to sort of be done. You were just waiting for the season to sort of open. Your shares actually increased to just over 80 cents. So offering a return for early people that participated or maybe took a stab at it after our video, 60% sort of return. Stocks retreated back a little bit just recently. But you've now, I think, started from what you indicated, you've started your exploration program. So there should be some interesting summer. Anything sort of planned in terms of like analyst trips, any marketing or anything that you're sort of doing to get the word out a bit more?
Yeah, these doing things like marketing with you here. We're doing a lot of marketing. We've done a lot of marketing. I think people are probably a little bit sick of seeing me, hearing my voice. They're just, show us the money, show us those drill holes. So we really wanted the drill holes to kind of do a lot of the talking. But, we are doing a little investor trip beginning of July. We're doing a board trip in August. And again, we're happy to bring more investors and analysts out if and when they want to go. It's a quick little hop from Vancouver. It's about an hour flight to Smithers, and then, an hour and a half or hour drive from Smithers to site. So it's very easy to get there. I always tell people, my old CEO at I Am Gold, he always said, the best fertilizer is the footsteps of the investor, meaning you got to go there, smell the ground, see the land to really understand it. And once you're kind of at NAC, you really do have a good understanding of it. And we just added a really good board member. His name's Gord Stothard. He ran I Am Gold, extremely smart guy, knows how to build mines, helped build Antamina mine, built the Cote mine near Sudbury, Ontario. And his first job was actually right next door to NAC, and he has a lot of knowledge of the area. Just adding this guy on board was really interesting. What he told me, we went for lunch the other day, and he goes, you guys have power like right up to your site. So I guess Bell and Grand Isle had BC Hydro going right up to their site, which we didn't know. And he goes, yeah, the line's right there. So talking about infrastructure, we could bring that line, I think 5.5 kilometers right to our site and direct power right to us. So that was a really kind of interesting thing to learn. And it's kind of the value it shows you by having, really smart, knowledgeable board members part of your company.
So there's been a little bit of chat sort of like around the Canadian mining industry, about sort of like the shorting that sort of goes on. You guys obviously weathered the storm very well. Your stock appreciated with not a lot of like traditional sort of exploration work. But lately, would there be any would there be any sort of complaining about people potentially like shorting your stock, like related to financing or anything like that?
I get emails about things all the time. Obviously, I got some questions recently. They showed up. There's some shorts that came up. Look, if you're in this investment business, especially junior mining, and look, I got involved with it. It's not a new thing that people short your stock. It happens. And then if you're investing in it, it shouldn't be a surprise either. These companies get shorted all the time. Look, it's probably a pretty good strategy for 95% of these companies out there. When they hit their all-time high, probably short them. But we've been hitting our all-time high for the last 4 months, so it hasn't really been a strategy that's worked for investors against us. I also think we have a bona fide potential deposit here, so I welcome all the shorters to come there. I haven't seen the assays. I've seen some of the core. I don't think it'd be a smart thing to be shorting at this point, but I'll let investors do what they want to do. But one of our biggest investors is, a Canadian icon, one of the best investors in the business. And what he told me really rang true. He said, I never made money worrying about why people are selling stocks. You make money worrying about who's buying them and getting people to buy that stock. But, you're going to lose your mind worrying about who sells it, because someone could, they want to buy a pool. Someone could have died. Someone's maybe selling on behalf of the estate. Maybe someone made a 500% gain they're selling. So everyone has a right to sell and buy. You just got to make sure there's enough buying behind you. As for shorts, again, like you can't worry about it. So there's a lot of reasons why people buy short. I think a lot of people think it's naked shorting. I don't really think it is. It could be an investor in the States. They have a U.S. legend. They want to lock in their 500%, gain. So they decide to short because they can't scrub the legend yet. There's a lot of different reasons. Why? Maybe someone wanted to finance their warrants that they purchased. For me, if you really have good results coming up, which, I think that we have a good potential to have good results, shorting is actually not a bad thing. Sure, it sends your stock down a little bit, but, shorting actually helps your stock go up even further because people have to cover their shorts. And if you do have negative results, it kind of actually softens the blow a little bit because, again, people want to go on the other side of that transaction and buy back the stock. So I always told people, and you can look at my speech, it was at MIF in January. I think our stock was at 32 cents. I brought up a picture of Han Solo, and I said, I want to put all investors here and cryogenically freeze them and wake them up in 2 years. We don't have a trading stock. It's going to burn you. It's a buy and hold, in my honest opinion. I think it's one of the few. And since that, our stock went from 33 to 80 cents. So anyone that tried to sell it short, they didn't win. And anyone that tried to trade it, they traded out of a winning position. So again, it's a good strategy for some stocks. We're fully funded. We have a lot of good results, I think, coming out. So probably not the thing for you. And again, 1.3 million shorts, it's really nothing in the whole scheme of things. We have 122 million shares outstanding. So that's kind of what I have to say. There's a lot of good people in the industry kind of advocating against shorting, Terry Lynch, etc. But that's not for me. We just want to focus on making sure our holes go in the ground the right place and we hit BAM and mineralization. And again, 2317 was our last hole. There's a Chilean hole in BC, and I'm really looking forward to repeating that.
So you've mentioned a bit about drilling. Maybe you could talk some specifics, like what are you hoping to prove through this drilling? Are you looking to expand upon things and work towards like a resource calculation? Or are you looking to connect different zones? Maybe you could just unpack that for us.
Yeah, good question, Kier. We have so much mineralization everywhere. We just want to connect the zones right now. So 12 and 17, we want to connect those two zones together. We want to go north of 17. We want to go south of 17 and north of 12. We also want to prove out, where we put that tech hole 2309. So we want to prove that, there's a continuity of high grade, and also show that there's just bulk mineralization everywhere to show that this thing can be a really big deposit. So we want to get to a point where a major will want to buy us. And how you do that is you really do have scale mixed in with high grade. And I believe we have the potential to get over 1 billion tons. It's just about drilling and getting there. Before, we really never had a plan. We're trying to find things, we almost call it kind of scout drilling. Now we have a plan. It's just disseminating, that mineralization and seeing how it connects. In terms of a resource, it's great to have. I think it's an older school approach. I'm trying to follow the model that Great Bear did. They took their stock from $1 to $29. They did it perfectly, but the one thing Great Bear never did is they never had a reserve or resource. They just proved every time they drill, there's more and more mineralization, higher grade. And when they stepped out, they kept on hitting that. So they never wanted to stop to do a reserve and resources because they kept on growing their, potential deposit every time they drilled. So that's kind of the model we want to follow. Just keep on drilling out, showing that there's blue sky. There's no reason to put on the brakes, start doing a reserve and resources. Again, I think it's an older school approach, but in the investor world, it kind of puts a glass ceiling on the size of your deposit. And we've kind of not seen the utter bounds of where we can stop drilling yet. So that's kind of my focus. But yeah,
How much of the drilling is going to go to sort of potentially deposit expansion versus like infill?
well, right now it's all, right now I'd say between 12 and 17, some would call that infill, but those two holes, I believe, are about 550 meters apart. So that is expansion, but infill between those two holes. Like I say infill is like 25, 50 meter space holes. Our first hole, even though it's between 23, 12 and 23, 17, that's 100 meters north of 17. So that's really expansion. I think most of our drill holes this year are going to be expansion. We're going to be pushing the envelope, drill to kill, drill to prove that this thing is something special, not only in BC, but the world.
And have you been able to sort of, through your last two sort of seasons of drilling, been able to kind of come up with a model of how sort of like, geophysical sort of targets, what they sort of result in real world sort of results?
We did some geophysical last season, or I guess this season, IP. The IP is lining up very closely with what our drilling has looked like. We're kind of building on that model, and we still have a lot of work to do. So don't really know what this deposit is going to look like. But when I initially looked at it, the geos looked at it, they thought, there's a north zone, there's a south zone, and there's an east zone. But what it's starting to look like is that this is all one big zone. So what you have to look at, so imagine you're looking at a cauldron. So a giant black cauldron, it's sitting over, flames on a fire. All that fire comes up around the cauldron. So that fire, essentially, that's how you look at almost potentially what the NAC deposit could look like. It's just this ring or donut of mineralization all around the cauldron. And that cauldron is that Babine porphyry stock. You can see it 20 times on our website or a presentation. And we still haven't got to some other areas. There's something called an IP embayment. We kind of call it, miniature NAC, little NAC. We haven't even drilled there yet. So there's another opportunity for another miniature cauldron just down south. So the way I think this deposit can look like is essentially like a big donut of mineralization all around.
When do you think we'd start seeing assay results? Will those be towards the end of the summer?
No. I think I'd put them out in Christmas if they weren't very good, like some local companies. But, we're going to be putting out those drill results in 4 to 6 weeks. We'll have them batched with other results. You don't make or lose a mine one drill at a time. You also don't want people to be timing when your results come out. So I'm going to tell you here, it's, beginning June right now. You'll probably start seeing assays early to mid-July.
Oh, excellent. And we'll see continuous sort of stream of it through batches. So rather than people sort of hanging on one or two sort of releases, you'll put them out sort of, you'll batch them and have sort of a fairly consistent flow.
Yeah, I want news to come out, once a month at least, out of sight, out of mind, whether it's friends or drill holes. So we want to make sure, we're in the story, we're in the zeitgeist of the mining exploration industry. And I truly believe, hand to the heart, love my uncle. Like, this is like his last big project. I really do believe we have something here and something special. Bad news travels slowly, but we're hoping to give you the assay results very fast.
What do you think of the copper space right now?
I love the copper space. Again, like kind of bringing back the Han Solo. I think people, it's one step forward, two steps back. So copper goes from 375 to 520 in a matter of months, and it makes a little retreat down to 460, and everyone, thinks the roof is closing, and then the stocks go back down. But man, if you told me in January we'd be at 460, I'd be the happiest person in the world. And it's always, what have you done for me lately? And once you're at 510, people want it at $6 or $7. But again, what's going to happen long term? Where are we going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Is a possibility for copper to go to $10 a pound? Like, I certainly think so. So I think it's a very good space. I know there haven't been a lot of copper mines come on recently, really any metal. There hasn't been a lot of exploration. And, right now, I only kind of want to be in Canada. I want to be in safe jurisdictions. When I saw Panama lose their mine for First Quantum, that's a safe jurisdiction historically in terms of third world countries. And if Panama's off the table, is Congo off the table? Is Peru off the table? Is Argentina off the table? Russia's off the table. So where do you want to be? If you're going to spend $100 million to prove a resource, another, First Quantum, spent $5-6 billion on that mine? and then to lose it, forget
Yeah.
it. I'd rather be in BC. If this copper price keeps on acting the way it is, you don't need that 1% copper. Maybe you're good enough with 0.4% copper. So I want to be in BC. I want to be in copper. And if you're lucky, you got a little bit of gold too. And guess what? We have it.
So what's a typical day looking like for you?
Doing calls like this, we got a lot of work. So Neil Prowse, who everyone kind of knows, he's managing a lot of the stuff at site, but just trying to problem solve, making sure people are paid, making sure people know about our stock, do about 5-6 different investment calls a day, getting people familiar with the stock. And, we talk to small retail and we talk to billionaires. So if you're willing to put $10 in my company, I'm willing to talk to you, or if you're just considering it, because that's $10 that you worked hard for. And these retail guys that may not have a lot of money in their stock, they actually speak the loudest. So they do have a lot of sway. Stock goes up because there's more buyers and sellers. We're trying to get more buyers out there.
Well, I will say you guys have some pretty entertaining social media. I think it's pretty well done at times. So keep that up. Whoever's doing that for you, they're doing a good job.
You're looking at them.
Anything else that you think we should touch on?
Keep on following the story. Just know the risks that come into mining and mining investment. It's a risk. It's called exploration. You just never know. You're on the frontier. But if you're going to pick that company, that stock, make sure you know the location of that asset is. Make sure you know who the CEO is. The most important job that I have, which is something that everyone should look at when they're looking at a company, make sure that you have enough money, you're not going to run out of money. And the one thing I can say about American Eagle Gold, we're located in Canada. We're drilling, so we got catalysts coming out. We got $50 million, which will last us for 2 years. So, we got all the checks right now. We have a great team in Charlie Gregg, and we'll just be drilling. And the only way of sustainable value is by having great drill results. And that's what we focused on for the last 5 years. Charlie, 68 years old, working like a dog, analyzing every meter that we drilled, the 13,000 meter historical core. So if you think we drilled well in the last few years with next to no geological information, wait to see what we do this year. I'm very, very excited. We're 400 meters in, and we'll be drilling at least 15,000 meters, and assays are going to come at you violently.
Hey, well, on that note, I think we'll end it there. Great pitch. Hey, Tony, great to catch up as always. I wish you nothing but the best and all the success here, and look forward to catching up with you in a couple of months.
Thanks a lot, Kier. Nice seeing you again. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to the public. Really look forward to it. And again, guys, anyone wants to contact me, any questions, you know how to reach me. co.ca, Twitter, phone number, email. Happy to answer your questions. We're drilling right now. Happy to introduce you to our technical team, AE, on the TSX venture.